Welcome to the Real Triathlon Podcast. I'm your host, Garrick Lowen, here with Nicholas Chase and Jackson Laundry.
Welcome back to the Real Triathlon Podcast with Nicholas Chase and Jackson Laundry, and usually Garrick Lowen, but I think he's probably out for a run or something.
He's probably getting ready for his IRONMAN in Canada pretty soon.
Oh yeah, he's probably doing a bike.
Jackson, you're currently in Frankfurt, Germany, at the race hotel.
Yeah.
Man, it feels like the buzz around this event is going pretty full on. Like this is
it? Oh, nice.
Stronger race, stronger field than Kona. Like I heard Skipper say that, all kinds of hoopla, left and right, center. Of course, they're focusing on normal names and favorites and faces that we always see. Is like, let's get some more laundry machine out there. But it's probably nice to be under the radar a bit.
Yeah, I've had plenty of attention from Ironman and all that stuff this year, which has been nice. But here it's good to do the under the radar style. Came in early and just sort of got adjusted well to the time change for once. Last time I did this, I was like wrecked when I went to Europe last year, but this time I'm feeling good. And yeah, I mean, everything all settled in. I had to get into a bit of a argument with the head official about my bottle situation, and
Because you did the
she
two.
was like, no, not that. It was the like gel compartment container that I have on the front that she didn't like. And she said it was a fairing, and I'm like, literally, I'm putting all my gels in there. I need this thing. She's like, no, it's a fairing. You can put it on the back. I'm like, well, a back is a wing that's probably more aero than where it is. It's like all these other people have these custom ones, and she's like, you got to move it. And I'm like, you got to show me this rule because I didn't see it. And she's like, didn't you see the rules about tape? And I was like, well, to put it on with the bolt, there's tape on it as well, just to like dampen some vibration. But yeah, I'll take the tape off. Fine. I took the tape off. She was like, fine. So it's fine.
Can we see a picture of it?
So now instead of a bolt and tape, it's just tape. I did take a picture of my bike as I dropped it off, but let me see if you can even
Just
see the old.
Send it to me and we'll feature it in the video. That way it just gets a nice little blast of encouragement.
Yeah, you can see it. It's not like right obvious in the front end, but you can see there's a little mini bottle underneath the other front bottle. That's where I got my gels. I'm gonna put 5 Morton gels in there. So I was fighting for it because I'm like, I need this. This is like a third of my calories. I don't want to stop at aid stations in these races when you've got strong freaking groups. If you stop and you get left, you could be screwed.
It is a bit tough.
Anyway,
like the current climate of bike, I guess, hydration and storage setup is gone a bit crazy because a lot of bike manufacturers, they just can't keep up with the evolution of where we're storing stuff and on bike hydration and what we're bolting, and the cockpits are changing. So I get it. The rules have to be a little strict, but I'm glad that they allowed some leeway because obviously if it's functional, it should be, I mean, more functional than aero is the key, right?
Yeah, well, the thing that didn't make sense was when the argument she was making was that this is a fairing, because pretty much every part now on a time trial bike serves a purpose and is designed in an aerodynamic way. So, or it is in an aerodynamic position. Every single bottle now on bikes is either no aero penalty or actually an aero benefit to have. So the position of the bottle, or the little mini bottle that I'm using as a gel storage, actually isn't an aero advantage. It's just neutral. It's just not going to cost anything, and it's right up near my hand, so it's real easy to access. Best position for that reason, for not littering, for safety, everything. Is just the best spot. But for some reason she decided that that was a fairing. If that's a fairing, then an aero helmet is way more of a fairing than that, because it saves you way more than a little mini bottle there. So it's just a bit of a weird. I think she just didn't like how much stuff I had. She's like, this is ridiculous how many bottles you have. I'm like, well, it's an Ironman. I'm out there 4.5 hours, 4 hours, whatever, like on the bike. It's just,
I mean, I'm out there for
not...
3 hours, 57 minutes and 18 seconds. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. Anyways, it's all good. Worked out, so I can actually stick with my current nutrition plan. If I get back there in the morning and she's changed her mind, I don't know what I'll do. I'll figure something out though, so we'll be fine. But I probably just put a bunch of gels in a pocket, I guess, or something. Anyway, doesn't matter.
So can we talk a little bit more about the bike? Because you're riding a prototype. All it says is prototype. What can you say about it?
Yeah, it's just a gem of a bike. We'll put a picture of it here, the one that I got right before the race. Racked in transition, but it's totally different than the Ventum 1 design. It's back to more of a traditional frame geometry in terms of 3. You got your triangle standard that has worked for a long time. They went back to that. We got real wide forks on it, wide chain stays and seat stays, which is what is apparently is the most aero, because you're kind of keeping the airflow along the same path with your legs, so it just kind of flows over everything on the beside the a little bit further away from the posts, like the seat posts and everything. And real light, and it's got a great, it's really like the parts that provide the most drag on a bike are the base bar and the fork. And the base bar and the fork are both a 6-to-1 airfoil, I believe, which is like the thinnest you're allowed compared to the depth. So very aero. I've loved it. I've trained on it for a few weeks, transferred the position over, got my bottles figured out because it doesn't have any internal hydration. Think it's a total weapon. So I'm super stoked to get out there and just give it a rip on race day. We'll see how it feels. It's definitely way stiffer overall, just especially the base bar, because it's all one piece solid carbon. On the Ventum 1, you kind of have the two sides that are bolted on separately, so there's a bit more flex to it. But yeah, it's pretty exciting to be on the first Ventum. The first iteration of it. Jason West raced it in London. And I believe this might be the second race that anyone's ever done on it. So yeah, pretty excited for it.
It is. I think Lauren Brandon also will be racing on it. So that's going to be awesome to have male and female representation on the new frame. I can't wait to get my hands on one of those puppies, but obviously we'll show some pictures. We'll hopefully, are you allowed to has Ventum been like, all right, you can say this, but you can't say that. You can do this, but you can't ride wheelies on it yet.
No, they haven't really. I'm not allowed to say anything about it because it's going to be on. Hopefully, it's going to be on the video coverage and everything, anyways. So you'll see it. Hopefully, when you watch the race. I mean, everyone listening to this probably already watched the last 10 seconds of the race because it's middle of the night for North America, which is where the majority of our folks are at. It'll be done when you wake up, unless you're an early bird, then you might catch a few minutes of the run.
All right, so give me a synopsis of kind of like your, I don't know, what would be a good day, what would be a great day, and kind of how would your day unfold in those two scenarios? Groups, people, positions, times, what kind of things you're looking at?
Yeah, so for me, this being such a huge field, I think there's about 86 actually here, like actually signed the board. So that might, I don't know for sure, but that might be the biggest full distance race ever in terms of one gender. So that's huge. So I could see it. If it could play out a bunch of different ways, it's going to be like a championship race with the depth of the fields that we have. So it could be like one big group at the front. You could have it where it's kind of like a lot of the PTO races, how they come along where like everyone's kind of together. You're obviously going to have a pretty big group like that. There's obviously a lot of swimmers that aren't as strong as in the PTO races, so you're going to have more than one group, but hopefully that front group is big and it's kind of all strung out in a long line of like 30 or 40 seconds, and I might be able to kind of sneak my way in to that or back of it by the end. That's like a great day swim. Good day swim would be kind of like second kind of main group. There, maybe there's a group that gets 2 or 3 minutes behind that I have that would be where I would expect to be. So that would be solid. And then obviously if I have a not great third group 5 minutes back or something, that would be not as ideal, but I was 5 minutes back in Placid and still had a good day. And then out onto the bike, it's kind of going to depend what the deficit is for me to like the front guys. Like if I'm more than like a minute or two down, I think it's just kind of for kind of trying to pace it really evenly and just work, make sure I'm really strong in the second half as well. There's a lot of depth, so there's always going to be guys to work with, and no matter where I get out of the water, there's probably some guys with me that are strong, and there's always some people who are willing to work really hard early on and that aren't going to be as strong after the first 20 or 30K. So trying to be strategic with like making sure I'm not the only one being aggressive early in the bike. But if I'm close to that front and I get out and I get a split, then I'm like a minute or something, I'll probably try to really spike it at the start and try to just jump and get into that group, or at least into a group that forms out of those front guys. But yeah, if I'm a little bit further back, more of an even pacing strategy. We got Sam Long, Trevor Foley, who are going to be really strong on the bike and probably coming out of the water behind me. So if I kind of pace it even and I say, all right, I'm going to do like 290, 285, whatever the first lap, something that I think I can back up, and they catch me kind of earlier on, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a really flat course. There's like one hill per lap. There's some rollers, but nothing like, there's just the one climb that's like 3 minutes, 2, 3, and then other than that, it's pretty much like false flats a lot. So it's a really good course for me, kind of similar to Michigan, where like it's not flat much, but it's also just kind of not steep hills. So you kind of always have to keep varying it a little bit. There's a lot of little villages you got to go through, and like there's going to be some yo-yoing with groups and stuff. So that's a dynamic we'll have to be careful on, making sure. I mean, we'll see if I hope people don't get too freaking close, because the pro meeting was kind of crazy with people like, well, what if this hill and then we get real close, and oh, what about here? Can we get real close? And it was just a bunch of people asking how for permission to go into the red on the freaking lights, more or less, with the race ranger, which was interesting. It's just so different. Like most race meetings, people are like making sure they're going to call penalties, or like different parts on the course that are sketchy, like making sure they're safe. Well, what are we allowed to do? And there's no passing zone, stuff like that. But here it's more like, well, when it packs up, well, when it yo-yos, are you going to call penalties? Like it was just all questions about making sure they're not going to get a penalty for getting into the draft zone, which, I mean, whatever. I hope they call some penalties.
I'm sure there will. I mean, especially with that big of a field, it is going to be impossible for folks to not hit the red a lot. And sometimes North American officials are a little hesitant, but I think European officials also have a little bit different culture mindset when it comes to, all right, we know this area through these windy streets, we're going to allow a little bit of red. But I think you can avoid that as an athlete pretty easily, because you know what's ahead of you. You've seen it, you've pre-ridden it, and it's easy to maintain a blue pretty well. So
Yeah.
it does take a little bit of away from your stability of just power, and you have to be a little more variable. However, my point is, like, you can avoid red pretty well off. And it sounds
Yeah.
like there's a lot of that is going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely there's also parts on the course where there's nothing for a long time. Like the first 12K or so is just like a straight shot from that lake, and hardly no turns, hardly any variability. That should be no reason for any red. Then there's some spots through town that might get congestion, but then there's like a long straight, and then there's a highway section that's like 18K. That's just a highway that's completely closed off both sides. Like it's a road you're not even allowed to bike on typically. So it's very wide, smooth, rolling hills. Like there shouldn't really be any reason. Like you see coming up, you just need to leave more space because you know it's gonna compress as you get to the hill. So I think we'll have a fair race. Like they have obviously called penalties. Ironman they do call penalties. Like, sometimes obviously there's a lot of stuff they can't catch, but people, yeah, who've gotten multiple penalties, and I actually think overall they do like a reasonable job. Obviously it depends on the official and it just depends on a lot of things, but I think they're gonna hopefully, call them when the people are being a little bit too aggressive with staying close. But yeah, I think we're gonna see some fast bike times. It just depends on the rain because it's supposed to be rainy like overnight and into the early morning. So if the roads are wet and obviously if it's raining during the race, that's going to slow things down a lot. But if the roads dry up, like I think we might see sub 4 because it's a few K short. It's like 177. And it's just mostly flat-ish, like not climbs. Like you're keeping your momentum. So I think you're going to see some really fast times, especially with such a big field of guys that are strong, working together. And then the run, yeah, you're just kind of along the river. You got to go over the little bridges twice per lap. So, and there's 4 laps on the run, 2 laps on the bike. So yeah, I think the winner tomorrow is probably gonna be like 7:30 or something.
I love I love 4 loops of 10K on the run. It helps break it up. I'm a big fan of that. Garrick, you're
Yeah,
here.
me too.
You snuck in there,
Yeah.
buddy. What are your
Hello, boys.
questions? What are you thinking? Where is your head on this race?
Just listening to Jack, so I think I caught most of his preview there. Yeah, I think the drafting's definitely going to play a role. I think we're going to see a lot of penalties. Just having raced in Europe once, but Ironman, and it was a stacked field, not quite as stacked as this field, but we saw the refs were shameless in giving penalties. We saw some fast biking, whether it was due to motos or not. But I think for sure you're going to see sub 4 on the bike because guys are going to go for it. Just looking at that field, and then yeah, 4 laps of 10K on the run is the best way to structure a run course, I think.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not too hot because I know they're very stingy when it comes to ice in Europe. So I haven't looked at the weather, but you said a little rainy, so it should be good.
Yeah, it's supposed to be pretty cool. It's supposed to be the high is only 22, so nice. Low is only 18, so it's kind of like staying the same the whole time. It's
Stable,
supposed to be rain, like possibly rainy the whole time, kind of like more so in the beginning and then off and on maybe. So it's just gonna I think that'd be better. Like it's not a really technical bike course. There's like one part where there's like a 400 or 500 meters of cobbles, which that kind of sucks. There's not really any turns on the cobbles though, so that's a good thing. And then there's one section where there's only one steep downhill on the whole course, and it's leading into like a village where there's a at the bottom. It's a pretty short downhill. It's, if we kind of just go a little bit slow, it's not gonna be a ton of loss there. So hopefully no crashes. But yeah, it's gonna slow things down a lot if it's rainy, which is good in my opinion because it's harder to kind of just sit in a group when it's rainy. Like it just breaks things up a little more. Anything that's going to slow it down, same with really windy. Anything that's going to slow it down is going to kind of force people to ride a little bit more
I
of
do
their
have
own power.
I do have a bit of a objection to the rain being as slow as you might think, because at Roth, it rained almost the entire bike course and it was no slower for most of the top 10. Like I feel like the roads in Germany, they probably clear rain well. The pavement's really good. The long straight roads, because we had 6,000 feet of climbing on our course and a lot of villages. I bet it's going to be just as fast, even with the rain. And you're just going to get a dirty old bike and face and hands. It's just, you're going to be destroyed. That's my call, because rain for some reason didn't slow the boys down last time I was participating.
I think as long as there's not standing water on the road, that's like if the roads are a little damp, that's fine. I think, but when you get like puddles, that's when things tend to slow down more. But I don't think it's going to be that much rain. It looks like the majority is going to be overnight and it's going to be like less. So I think it'll be good. But if it's like pouring rain, I was just imagining like Mont Tremblant. That was definitely slower. Literally, you're riding through puddles and you're like hoping not to freaking go over the handlebars because you're not sure if the puddle's an inch deep or like 6 inches deep. So
yeah, that is a valid point for sure. I hope you don't have any potholes in Germany. They should be a fine for that.
yeah.
Those roads are so good. Who do you think is going to be kind of making moves the most on that course at certain points? Like obviously the bike and run are going to be pretty pivotal for position changes. So who do you think are going to be moving around the most? And
Um,
who's going to be sleeping in there?
yeah. I think you got for sure like Sam and Trevor and me, if I don't have like a great swim, are going to be trying to really bridge up on the bike. It's going to be so hard here though, because you have like Christian Hogenhaug and Florian Angert and Braden Curry and like a bunch of, Clément Mignon, a ton of Euros who are super strong, like that are probably just as strong or at least nearly just as strong as Sam and Trevor on the bike. And there's more of them. And there's it's the front of the race. There's lots of motos. Like motos don't get directly in front of you, but there's some sections that are narrow. Like it's gonna happen. There's gonna be sections where the motos get in front, especially on the second lap. That's just the way it is when you've got age groupers. There's just less space for the motos and you end up sometimes behind them. So it's hard to say who, but I know Christian Hogenhaug races super aggressively on the bike. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's pushing it real hard up at the front. I think Patrick Lang's going to be super strong swim and bike. He probably won't like push the pace at the front, but he's going to try to hang there. And if not, he'll be in like a second group of guys that are moving really well. Yeah, it's so hard to pick out when you have like literally, obviously Christian Blumenfeld. He's definitely not like as confident as he has been before at the Ironman distance, just with having not done a ton of specific prep, but the guy's total beast, and I still wouldn't be surprised if he's right at the front all day and wins the race.
I think he's the biggest wild card for me, and I can't wait to see how he plays his cards because we haven't seen him at this distance. But we all know how savage he is in terms of being able to have the utmost intensity all day long and never relents. So if he does slack, it's because he like literally cannot go any harder or he would die.
Yeah, I think the only thing that like maybe we'll see is a bit of a fade towards the end of the bike if he's just not been used to riding aero, but I think he's still going to be aggressive and he may just be totally fine. So he'll be up there for sure. Yeah, it's gonna be wild because there's like 30 dudes I haven't mentioned who are all gonna be freaking strong and up near the front.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I really think I'm gonna be a weapon especially with this new bike. It's gonna give me a boost. I'm riding well. I've got to believe I can outride like 95% of the field. So it's just a matter of pacing it smart, being racing the race, racing the guys I'm with, and using them to kind of push myself and kind of seeing where it shakes out. And no matter what, I want to run at least 5 minutes faster than I did in Lake Placid.
This course should suit you for that.
For sure. I think just a similar run performance would be about 5 minutes quicker. And I didn't run too bad. Like I ran well. I just faded a little bit towards the end. So I think with a bit of a better consistent nutrition plan where I don't lose too much, I don't lose my nutrition bike, hopefully. And if I do, so I have another plan. If I lose a bottle, I'm gonna grab gels like right away instead of on the second lap, because the second lap when you got age groupers is too hard. So if I am gonna lose something, it would be on that cobblestone section, which is like around 30 to 40K in. I think around 40 on the first lap. So my strategy is going to be to like drink about a third of each of my bottles before I get there so that they're lighter. They're not as likely to launch. And also I went over that section before the race and didn't lose anything, but I'm just going to do the best to make sure I don't lose there. And even if I do, I'm going to have a plan for it. So should be fine.
How many watts do you think that little dangly thing on your wristband is going to cost you?
Oh, I gotta
I saw
chop
that.
her down. Chop her down to about here.
You got to chop her, then burn her so she doesn't fray.
Not only on the bike, but you're gonna lose like minutes on the swim because of that.
No, because you see on the swim, you put your hand in, and then when you're pulling, it like grabs more water right here.
Positive drag.
Right.
It's like
So
a
I have a
paddle.
theory. I have a theory that I've been kind of working here with Morgan. Been telling her I think Jack is secretly the best cyclist in triathlon, but he's been held back because he's only ever ridden one bike in his professional long course career. And I
Almost
think
true.
Oh, that's
You
right.
think that
You had the
He had a felt.
so you
yeah,
think the
that felt.
new Ventum's gonna be real good? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think it's definitely an improvement. Yeah, let's go with it. I'm the best cyclist. It's this gonna show starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
I
Just
No,
gonna
think
ride
it's
to the front. Can you imagine I just get out like 3 minutes down, just solo, catch the front, and then go off the front on my own? That'd be sick.
that's what I think's gonna happen.
I don't know. The power transfer just added another 80 watts. It just did.
Yeah. Because yeah, well, yeah, I have the same theory with Nick because I remember what kind of cyclist he was, and he's been struggling to find his biking legs, and
Well,
yeah, I'm
it's
scared of him for Chatty. So
it's always easy to blame the bike, and I won't have the new frame yet, and I don't know if I'll have it for Chatty. It'd be nice, but I know they're still going through the works on it. But I know Ventum's doing everything they can to produce one of the most competitive TT bikes out there. Not that the Ventum one disc hasn't won so many races and set bike
yeah,
course records, but I think for sure losing a little bit in acceleration, stiffness, especially if you're on and maybe aerodynamics, but I just think look at all the other bike manufacturers. They've made their new super bikes within multiple years after the Ventum one disc. And so now bike technology, I think, has just evolved so much that Ventum is now like, oh,
yeah.
we've now adapted and now we're on equal playing
That's
field.
that that's what I'm saying is like that bike is how many years old, right? Like how long has Jack been riding that bike? And now
Yeah.
Ventum's catching up because everyone's come out with new bikes since then. So I'm thinking
Well,
there's
they're jumping like ahead,
yeah.
right? Because when the first designed Ventum 1 came out, it was like 2014 or 15 or whatever. And it may have been like one of the, or not, if not one of the best bikes, the best bike. But then everybody kind of catches up, and then people come out with new things, and the new rules come out, and they match rules. So now with like it's a UCI legal bike, by the way, but now UCI has the regulations of the airfoil like allowance, so it can be 6 times deeper than it is thick. So the base bar and the fork, or the fork and the seat stays and chain stays, I believe, are all like the absolute limit of that rule, which is the main drag components of the bike. So I think that's hugely important. But you guys will see in the photo I'm putting up on my whatever story or pre-race thing that this is the bike. This is what it looks like. And Garrick missed the part where I had to get into the official about that my gel container is not a fairing, which it actually isn't.
It's usable. It's operational function, and it's aero because why not? It should be if it's going to be functional.
Yeah. But in any case, yeah, I do think the new Ventum's going to be a boost for sure.
What shoes you're going to race with there?
On the run, I'm going to have the Alpha Fly 3s,
Nice.
which I think are the optimal Ironman shoe. I still think the Vaporfly 3 might be a better for me for a half, just with a little bit more lightness. But in a full, you just the pounding really takes a toll once you get to like 35K. You're like, oh my god, how are my quads gonna do this? So I think the extra cushioning is gonna be worth it.
Yeah, I haven't. Mine are still just from running warehouse, just kind of sitting on the mantle, chilling. I haven't even looked at them. Do they feel different than the two?
Yeah, they're a
Yes.
lot more smoother transition on them for sure. That's the main
Just
thing.
Twos were so clunky. Like I just ran the twos recently just for a speed workout, and I was like, damn, these things do not fit my style of running. Didn't Kipchoge
I
wear
like
them
the
at
yeah.
the
He wore
marathon?
the 3s at the marathon. Well, but not for the full marathon because he took them off when he started walking.
Okay.
Nick, what colorway do you have for your Alpha 3s?
The purple?
Yeah, I just got those.
Yeah.
Shout out
What?
to Running Warehouse.
Yeah,
And
they hooked it up.
no one has them in stock, but Running Warehouse had them in stock. So go check
Savage.
that if you want some Alpha 3s. Go check out Running Warehouse.
So Jack, tomorrow, I mean, this is what time is it for you? Like 5 o'clock?
It's 5:55 and I'm meeting the boys for dinner at 6, so
Okay.
I've got minutes.
All right. So final thoughts before we wrap. and get you sent off. What are the last minute preparations, last minute mental things you're going to do since it's such a pressure filled race? How are you going to handle that?
Yeah, I think just trying not to overthink it too much. I usually go out and execute a good day as long as my body cooperates, and there's no reason to believe it won't. Feeling good. I've fueled well. I've done everything I can. So, yeah, I think approaching it like a world champs style field where you can take advantage of the fact that there's a lot of strong guys around you. Always have someone to push you. So just kind of staying in the moment and racing the race that's right there. When you got these if you have like a super small field and like,
Damn it.
No, like
When you got this super strong field and you're just worried, but you don't get worried because you got the legs to back it up, and you're there and you just win the race. And I'm Jackson. I'm the best, and I'm real fast. That's what he
and everything. Yeah, that's exactly what he's gonna say. This is actually him saying goodbye. He just didn't want to let us down.
He does
I'm
that.
leaving.
Sometimes he'll just leave at parties and he won't say goodbye. He'll just fade out.
Yeah,
The Irish
exactly.
goodbye. Garrick, this race is going to be pretty amazing, though. And I feel like I have to get up early and watch it start at least just to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, it'll be late for you, right? Or it's gonna be at 10 o'clock, 10:30 is the start for you. 10:30 p.m. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna get up early to watch the run. Because that'll be if they start at 12:30 my time, by the time they start running, it's what, 5:30?
Yeah.
5:30? Yeah. Yeah. I might get up, watch roughly when I'm sleeping.
He said his
But,
laptop crashed.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right. Well, I think on that note, I don't really have any further notes. I'm really excited to see who pushes it, who makes it happen. Really using the momentum to kind of see this is like good Kona prep for most of these guys who are going to go to Kona too. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And a lot of guys like Jack, it's going to be his first time in Kona. So this is a good way for him to like feel out, like he said, championship racing, but at the full distance.
Yep. That's going to be awesome. And hopefully, Garrick, you can get a Nice slot and I can get a Nice slot and we can go there next year and experience it ourselves.
Hopefully, yeah, that would be great. Hopefully I get it Ironman Canada. So
Yeah.
I plan on winning that race by 30 minutes and sealing my slot.
Why don't you train right now? You already done enough?
I do have a ride to do, but it's only 3.5 hours. So I'm like, oh, I don't need to get on the bike early. It's only 3.5 hours.
Got all day. All right. Well, let's end. And man,
yeah,
hope everyone has a good time watching the race, tracking Jackson, watching the spectacle, and obviously thanks for listening. And peace, mother freaking out.
Oh.
Peace out.